Pleasure to welcome to the show Paulina DiFatta. Paulina, pro goalie, welcome to the show.
Mhm. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
So excited to be
absolutely.
here.
Absolutely. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear the story about how you became a goalie. You remember your very first time in goal?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So as a kid, I loved playing sports. I kind of tried out every sport that I could probably get my hands on. Um, Started off as a soccer goalie, probably around first grade. At the same time, that was the time I was picking up lacrosse. I started playing in first grade, but I played mostly field wherever they needed me. It wasn't until fifth grade where I was like, I'm a really good soccer goalie. Why don't I try out being a lacrosse goalie? So I asked my coach, and it's kind of music to his ears because there was not like a specific person that was looking to be a full-time goalie at the time in fifth grade. Um, but yeah, once I stepped into the cage, I loved it. I never stepped out of it.
What did you love about it? What would you say is kind of your favorite thing about being a lacrosse goalie?
I think at a young age, playing soccer and being a goalie there, I love the pressure of being a goalie. So I think that definitely worked in, it definitely helped me become a better goalie, knowing that the pressure's on and I just wanted to be a better teammate for, my team and be the best goalie I could possibly be.
Yeah, there is a lot of pressure on us goalies, right? That's the cool thing about it. What would you say though to a young goalie who sometimes feels a little bit overwhelmed with all that pressure? What kind of tips could you give them?
I think just take a moment and think of why you're playing. I think for me, I played 6 years in college. I've been playing since first grade. When I have those moments, I kind of step back and I'm like, why am I playing lacrosse? And ultimately, it's just because I love it. I love playing it. If I didn't love playing it, I probably wouldn't be playing still to this day. But I really do enjoy playing lacrosse, and I know every time I step out on the field, I have more to give. So every time I play a game, play a practice, I kind of reflect on what I need to work on,
Hmm.
and the next day I try that out.
Yeah, that's great. That's great tips, great advice. What do you think? Was there something specific about being a soccer goalie that then made the position of lacrosse goalie a little bit easier for you?
Yeah, that's a good question because I think if you watch me play, it's not necessarily I'm making stick saves all the time. I'm kind of just throwing my body in front of there, trying to get a kick save, or I'm very
Mm.
reactionary.
Yeah.
And I think that comes from being a soccer goalie. So things like that, I was able to carry on onto the lacrosse field. Yeah.
Yeah. And position and angles too, right? I mean, just
Oh
that
yeah.
that understanding of where I need to be set up to sort of maximize my chance of making that save. Um,
Definitely.
I played like well after college. I played on an indoor soccer team, and I'd never played like indoor soccer goalie, but because I was a lacrosse goalie, I was like so good at it
Yeah.
because of like knowing where to set up, right? Like
hmm
being on the right place of the arc, so that like I limited the amount of movement I needed to make a save,
hmm
and same thing applies.
Exactly. I think
Yeah.
positioning is so important in both sports, but definitely in lacrosse. If you're in right positioning, it makes your job a lot easier.
Yeah, totally. And then there's also something to be said about just getting used to projectiles flying at your face, right?
hmm Yeah. Yeah. Thankfully, I was never really scared of the ball. I think some goalies at that age were a little bit scared of it, but for some reason, I loved it. I love just throwing my body in front of it and making those big plays for your team. I think that's what gets me going is knowing that you have such an important role in that field. And you can really be a game changer.
So I always say the crazy ones are the goalies who don't have that fear factor, and that's you. So you are one of the crazy ones, Paulina.
That
What do
makes
you think
sense.
that? Yeah, what do you think? I mean, how do you think that came to be?
I think I'm just super competitive. And like I said, I played a lot of sports growing up. Tennis, basketball, soccer. I even went to ice skating camp because I wanted to try it out. I was one of those kids that were just so intrigued by these sports and I don't know, I just really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. So growing up on Long Island is where you're from, yeah?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I imagine, lacrosse is everywhere. A lot of great coaches, a lot of great role models when you're
Mhm.
going about learning the position? How'd you do it?
Hmm. That's a good question because I feel like when I first started off being a goalie, um, I didn't really get much training. I just kind of was thrown in there and used my reaction. I think over time, there was definitely some players I looked up to. A lot of the guy goalies I definitely watched. Liz Hogan was one of the female goalies that I looked at. I don't know. I think for me, the more film I watched, I was able to grab like different techniques from different goalies. Or I wouldn't say there was like one goalie specifically that I like looked up to. I think there was just like a ton
Yeah,
that I was able to learn from.
that's interesting. I would imagine that like as you're playing club or maybe with your high school, like you start to get some pretty good goalie coaching. But you're saying no,
No,
you actually,
no,
yeah,
yeah, I definitely went the longest time without a goalie trainer. I don't think it was until junior year of high school where I got a trainer to kind of clean up some of my stance and whatnot.
yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely self-taught, and I think that was like the coolest part for me, and I think that benefited me a lot because I was able to put my own spin into things and then clean it up in high school.
I love that. I love
Thank
that because I mean, there's a lot of goalies that say like, "Well, I'm not from a particular area. It's tough to get coaching," and like, here we go, like
you.
Paulina, like professional goalie, self-taught, right? So
Yeah,
like you can do it. I mean, the resources are out there with sites like mine, and there's a bunch of great goalie coaches putting out content, and
yeah.
you can watch pros play
Hmm.
on ESPN now, which is great, right?
Amazing. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what kind of helped me was watching film. I would have to
yeah.
say, like, out of everything, like watching different goalies is what helped me the most.
Who did you watch on the men's side? I'm just curious. The most.
Hmm. Like Blaze Reardon is definitely my favorite guys goalies.
Yeah,
Um, until this day, I still watch him. So yeah, I
that's
just like how
interesting.
aggressive he is, and his positioning is just phenomenal. So
Yeah. He plays with such a unique style. Like, I
mhm.
mean, you don't see anyone else, at least in the pros, like playing like that. He's just so like relaxed, sort of
Yeah,
standing upright and right. And where a lot of the other goalies are,
yeah,
real nice athletic squat. And you can have success both ways, but
yeah. I
just so
think
interesting.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people say about me is that I'm very like relaxed and then I'm not like this goalie that's like jumping around or whatnot. I definitely hype up my teammates, but once I'm in that goal, like I'm pretty relaxed. So I would have to say that yeah, that's why I kind of looked up to him as well.
There you go. There you go. So it's Blaze and Paulina with the relaxed styles.
Yeah.
Awesome. Um, I was going to ask, at a certain point, I guess you start to have some success with the lacrosse goalie position.
Mhm.
Was there a point where you had to go like, hey, I'm going to be all in on lacrosse? Because you mentioned like I love sports. I
Yeah.
mean, as a high school, you probably played several sports. At what point did you have to sort of make the decision like, all right, it's lacrosse for me?
Yeah, I think going into high school,
I in high school. Yeah.
yeah, going into ninth grade, there was a point where I just didn't really find as much joy in soccer that I did with lacrosse. Like I loved lacrosse way more.
Mm.
And I knew if I was going to play a sport in college, I was going to do it because I loved it. If I wasn't finding joy in it, I wasn't going to play college sports. But there was a time going into high school where it was like, okay, I'm all in. I emailed like the Yellow Jackets coach and I was like, is there any way I could join? I already missed the tryout. So not going into ninth grade, going to 10th grade, actually, I joined Yellow Jackets. I was on the last team. So I think that's pretty like interesting in my career. Like I started off on the last team of Yellow Jackets. Um,
What do you mean
and then
the last team?
there was like rankings during
I see like the lowest level of
lowest level.
yeah,
And
okay.
I mean, I wasn't bothered by it at all. Like I knew like everything happens in your career and it made me
Right.
work more. So then following summer, I moved up a couple classes. But I don't know. I think for me, I always just I always just worked really, really hard to be the best goalie I could possibly be. And you get these places in your life where not everything's going your way, but I think being able to work really hard and like overcome that is something I always did.
Yeah, love it. What do you think it is about the sport of lacrosse that gave you more passion, more life than the sport of soccer?
Mm-mm. It was a lot more faster pace. I think
Yeah.
the pace of lacrosse is definitely faster, and that's what I enjoyed way more than soccer.
Yeah.
Um,
It's more difficult to make a save as a goalie too. So when you do, it's like, you got such more of a feeling of accomplishment. I don't know.
yeah, you see more shots, I think, too, in lacrosse than you do
Oh,
in
way more.
soccer.
Way
Yeah,
more, right?
so
Yeah.
it's a lot more fun in my eyes.
Yeah. But giving up a goal, I guess, as a soccer goalie's got to be tremendously more devastating, right? Because
Yeah,
like you give up 3 goals and that's a horrible game.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot more pressure.
Yeah. Um, when did you then decide that I wanted to play lacrosse in college, like at the D1 level?
I think it was going into my sophomore year. I started getting looks. I unfortunately tore my ACL, my first one. I've torn 3 ACLs in my career. So my first ACL I tore going into my sophomore year in September. But before that, that summer, I had a couple colleges looking at me. And that's when I knew that I wanted to play, that I was good enough to play. But unfortunately, when that happened, I definitely second guessed it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I spent my sophomore year really fighting to get back. I came back in 7 months, right in time for varsity lacrosse in high school. And I was a lot better of a player than I was before my injury. And I think that's when I knew like I had to, that doesn't happen often. So I knew that I needed to start reaching out to coaches and see if I can get any offers. And I was thankful that I got a couple offers because I knew, my age class was during that time where 8th graders and 9th graders were committing to college. So a lot of those
Right.
spots were taken by the end of my sophomore year. So I was fortunate to have a couple offers.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that injury if you're open to it, or I guess
Yeah.
multiple injuries, unfortunately. It could be so devastating, not only physically, obviously physically the pain and having to work back and doing all the rehab and whatnot, but just mentally, right? Like
Hmm.
here you are thinking like, oh man, I'm gonna, I can go play D1. I have all this great future ahead, and boom,
Yeah.
then the knee goes out, and it's like, did you struggle mentally, and how did you
Oh,
fight that?
definitely. I think a lot of people just see like the physical injury and they don't really talk about the mental aspect to it. For me, I've always been like a mentally tough player, been able to overcome a lot. So when that happened to me, yeah, it was obviously mentally really draining, but I kind of looked at that bigger picture, stepping back again, like we said in the beginning. Like I step back and reflect, like, why am I doing this? And it's because I still loved playing. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what pushed me um to full recovery. And yeah.
Yeah, and was it like a lacrosse injury? Like were you on the
It was no, it was actually varsity soccer camp. I tore it on a grass field. There was a little hole in the ground. And I just planted my foot wrong, and
yeah,
yeah, unfortunately that it went.
yeah, and then yeah, that's amazing that you were able to fight back. seven
Mhm.
months, you're out there again. When you
Yeah.
step on the field, are you back in the right headspace? Are you back in the right mental space, or is there still a little bit of like, I got to go easy on this knee, or you're thinking
Yeah, I
about it?
think
You know what I mean?
no, I don't think I was thinking about it that much, which was like surprising. I thought I was going to come back and kind of play kind of hesitant, but I really wasn't. I was actually um more like I was coming out of the cage more, and
More
I don't
aggressive.
know, yeah, I was definitely more aggressive, which
Mm-hmm.
surprised me, but it actually like worked in my favor. I From then on I definitely changed my style to be a little bit more aggressive. And you see that in my college career. Like I made like interceptions. I wasn't scared of coming out of the net. Yeah.
Yeah. So you end up going to Fairfield. Yeah.
Hmm. Yes,
Awesome.
correct.
Why did you pick Fairfield?
Yeah. So as I said, when I returned back from my ACL, had a few offers on the table, and Fairfield was one of them. I checked it out. It was close to home. It's around 2 hours from Long Island. Place where I was comfortable, and it was a good business school. I was going to major in accounting and finance. It was just a school that I felt comfortable at. Coaching staff was great. The team seemed great. And yeah, I played my first 2 years there.
Awesome. Do you know by chance Charlie Cipriano? I know he went to Fairfield, played pro lacrosse
No,
goalie.
I don't.
No?
No, no,
All right.
no.
All right. You got that connection. So I was just curious. I was just
No,
curious.
I didn't.
Yeah. And then while at Fairfield, you have the second ACL injury. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
Same knee, different knee.
Different knee. So
Oh
in the
man.
fall, in the fall, I was in practice and came out of the net, and the other one went.
Oh,
Yeah, in October of my freshman year. So that was obviously, being a freshman in college is hard enough.
yeah.
And then adding an injury on top of that was definitely challenging, more than the first ACL. Yeah, mentally,
Yeah,
physically.
I was gonna ask if it was more challenging or less challenging, because I could see it going both ways, like more challenging in the sense of, yeah, like it's the second time that you have to go through it, it's the other knee, but less challenging in the sense of like I've been through this before. I know exactly what it takes to overcome it. But for you, this one was more challenging. Why was that so?
I think just being in college, first of all, unfortunately,
Yeah.
like I found myself like at Fairfield, and I wasn't quite loving it. And it wasn't because of a certain person or coaches or anything. It was just like I wasn't happy there. And I had to go through, being injured and being on the sidelines, and lacrosse was that outlet for me. And to take away my outlet was kind of devastating.
Yeah.
So I had to find this like new role in the team that I really have never had to take on, being on the sidelines, because my injury my sophomore year, I was able to get back on the field. So going through a whole season on the sidelines was tough.
Yeah, that's a good point. Being at college, I mean, you're not living with that support system of the family, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. And so that one, another 7 months, or that one take longer to get back?
So I got back around 9-10 months. I took a little bit longer, made sure everything was good. I think I played a little bit of the fall ball the following year, my sophomore year of college. Yeah, and everything was good. I was still playing aggressive, no holding back, which I love. So
Yeah. And so you mentioned Fairfield not being like a great fit for you. What exactly was that, do you think? Was it just kind of the team, the school, everything above, all of the above, like a huge combination?
Yeah, I think a huge combination. I don't think I could really pinpoint something. I just knew in my heart it wasn't the place for me long term, and I realized that and I accepted that. But yeah, I knew that I wanted to get back on the field, and I thought maybe I was second guessing it because I wasn't playing. So maybe I was like, if I'm not playing, maybe I wasn't liking it because of that.
Right.
So I came back my sophomore year and played and won the MAC championship, actually, my sophomore year. And after that game, I still wasn't happy for some reason.
Wow.
So that's when I knew I had to make the change.
Yeah. I'm always curious as to, when's the right time to say like, I'm gonna transfer, because even if like you're loving the school, there can be, and the team, like there can be certain times where you're just not like feeling it, right? I mean, kind of like, it kind of goes like up and down in waves in a certain sense, where like sometimes you're riding super high and then sometimes you hit down on the lows. What advice do you have to, I don't know, maybe like another college freshman, sophomore that isn't one of those lows, and they're not feeling it? How can they help determine when's the right time to pull the trigger on a transfer?
I mean, that really just depends on you, honestly. I think just listen to yourself and listen to your heart. If you're not feeling the way you're supposed to feel, when I stepped on the campus at Elon, like I knew that's where I belonged. So I think for anyone out there that's struggling, like listen to your heart, like you owe it to yourself to find a place that makes you happy. Like, don't go 4 years unhappy. It'll take like a mental toll.
Yeah. I mean, it can really destroy your mental well-being, right? And for the most part, when folks have transferred I've talked to, that they've then found a really great fit. And it sounds like you did with Elon. What was it about that school that you liked in particular?
Yeah, Coach Josh Hexter was he was the head coach, and I don't know, he just seemed like an amazing coach. He really cared about mental health. I remember being there, and he understood being a student athlete, and days where we had finals and projects all due in a week, he'll cancel a practice for one of those days and be like, focus on yourself, focus on your mental health. And you know what, we showed up to practice the next day working 20 times harder because we had that off day to kind of focus on ourselves. And then other than that, like, the school itself was beautiful, and like the business school is unreal. So being in North Carolina, having the warm weather was also a bonus.
There you go. That's awesome that your coach was able to do that. I think so many times it's like, lacrosse, and you kind of forget that about the mental health, or you forget about the studies, right? And so I mean, it's important to keep that in mind, and that's awesome that he was able to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
But then here we go, third knee injury. Right? Oh man, what's going on with those knees?
I know. Well, knock on wood.
Bad luck.
They've been good.
All right, knock on wood. Third knee injury. Now this time, I mean, talk to me about the mental anguish that you're going through when you blow out your knee. And which one was it? The first one or the second one?
It was the second one. So I re-tore the second one.
Yeah.
It was the fourth game in against UNC, probably like 8 minutes in. It was raining, so at Elon we play on grass field. A player was rolling the crease. I stepped one way, she shot the other way, and my foot just kind of slipped in the mud and retore it. Yeah. But this time around, I ended up just taping it up and playing the rest of the season. So definitely, that was definitely physically and mentally challenging, but I knew my team needed me, so I was able to push through.
Wow. So you played pretty much 3/4 of the season on a torn ACL.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. And then had surgery after the season?
Yep, had surgery that summer, and then rehab the following year, which ended up being the COVID year.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah. Wow. I mean, talk about pain, right? I mean, was it like, did it impact the way that you played goalie?
I don't believe so. I think it's really interesting to me when I look back in my career, like, I was able to get better every year that I played, which is not a lot of goalies could like say that, but like, I honestly believe like I got better every single year, even though I had those injuries. I think it made me a better player, made me a tougher player, and made me a better teammate, because I understood what some of those those injured girls were feeling, and I was able to relate to them. So I really believe like everything happens in your career for a reason, and you don't know it in the moment. But I promise you, like, in a couple months, in a year, you'll realize that everything does happen for a reason.
Yeah. What else do you accredit that statement to, getting better every single year? Because you're right, not every goalie. I mean, that's kind of what our every goalie's goal is, right? To keep kind of steadily progressing upwards. But sometimes it doesn't work that way. You have a lapse. Yeah. What do you accredit that to yourself personally?
Yeah. I think first of all, like, I have a really good support system. I think my parents really instilled in me that I could do anything I really put my heart towards, and they knew how much I love lacrosse. So they really pushed me, made sure that I was rehabbing correctly, and making sure I was doing my wall ball and whatever I needed to do. Be juggling oranges in the kitchen, and they'd be, it's just like those little things. They made me the player that I am today. So definitely I thank them a lot. But over the years, like, I never fell out of love for lacrosse, and I knew every time I stepped on that field, like, I could get better. Like, I'm not doing this properly, like, work on this the next day, and then the next game, like, let's see if that helps at all. So I was definitely like competitive within myself as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of, continuing to get better, you
Hmm.
then do a graduate degree at Pitt, and that's kind of where I think I first came across, started watching you play was at Pitt.
Yeah.
Great
Thank you.
season, right? Led
Appreciate
led
it.
led the ACC in saves. I think he had
Hmm.
like a 19 save game, which is incredible. I mean, especially in the women's game where they tend to have lower amounts of saves because
Yeah. Thank you.
the shots are like right in your face, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
But yeah, I mean, talk to me about that season.
Yeah, it was really great being at Pitt. It was their inaugural season. When I was making the transfer, when I was in the transfer portal looking for a grad school, Pitt was definitely like on the top of my list because it was their first season and I wanted to
Ah,
do something special. And that was definitely an opportunity where not only are you playing for a season, like their first season, but you're playing in the ACC and you're playing at the top
right.
level in Division One. Um, I love the coaches, the team culture was amazing. I was friends with everyone from, the grad students to the freshmen. Like we were just like one big family and it really showed on the field.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And
Mhm.
what an opportunity, right? Because a lot of times, when you transfer in to a program and the head coach has been there 6 or 7 years, right? Like you're coming into their culture. And in
Mhm.
a way, like when you stepped on that field with Pitt the very first time, like you got to
Yeah.
help create the
Yep.
culture and kind of define what it is, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That was really cool. And it's like the little things that you wouldn't think of, like what to do before games. Like we had a practice, like what we did in the locker room, like when we came out, like the little things when our names are called, what should we do? It was really cool, like putting it all together and then having the full season happen and doing as well as we did.
Yeah. What are some words that, yeah, you're right. It's like the little, totally little things. Like
Yeah,
how do we come out before the game, or what do we do at halftime? And,
yeah.
but it is then some of the main things like, hey, when the team's really down, like who steps up and gives that speech, and what are some of the lessons? What words come to mind when you think about the culture that you left there at the program?
Hmm. That's a good question. I don't know. I think for me, like I've always wanted to be like a great teammate and I really focused on that. Like I've never been that goalie that's like yelling at their defenders. Like you won't see me yell. Like I will blame it on myself before I blame any of my defenders. So I
Hmm.
always want to be like just like that stable, like backbone on that team. And I really hope I did that. I really think I do because I still connect with my teammates at Pitt and I feel like I left an impact. Um, so it's really nice.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. I wanted to ask you about one of your teammates. Someone asked me about it. You had a teammate that was 4'8". Am I right?
Yeah, she was also my roommate.
Oh, she's also your roommate. Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
amazing because I love that. Like I'm 5'8", so I'm pretty small as a smaller guy, right?
Uh-huh.
When people say like, well, lacrosse is great because you can have success at all levels,
Yeah.
like at all heights. I mean, not all levels, like
Yeah.
any body type.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
just so cool.
Yeah, she was a shifty player and she was on the smaller end, but she was incredible. Like definitely one of my favorite players to watch.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, cool. And then, you have a great year at Pitt. Honorable mention, All American,
Mhm.
honorable mention, right?
Yep,
Yeah, yeah. Honorable
correct.
mention, All American, second time because you also got
Mhm.
that before. And then you get selected, or I guess drafted into the Athletes Unlimited Pro League.
Mhm.
Talk to me about that experience.
Oh, playing professional lacrosse was definitely a unique, amazing experience. I think for starters, I was watching the draft just because I was just supporting lacrosse, and then
Mhm.
to have my name come across, it was pretty surreal. I was like, called my parents right away. It was my mother's birthday, and they were freaking out. But I knew when I got drafted, like I couldn't let that opportunity slip. So
Yeah.
I went ahead and played that summer. I didn't know anyone going into it. Like you said, like I was coming from, a mid-major school. So I wasn't one of these players that were coming from a top 10 school. But it was an amazing experience to play with some of the best players in the country, the world.
So you had no inkling, like you had no idea that you might even get drafted. You were just watching the draft and they were
Nope.
like, Paulina DiFatta. Well, what?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's amazing. What did you learn playing with some of the best? I mean, not only the best goalies, just the best women lacrosse players in the world. What were some things that you learned out there?
Hmm. I think like getting to know them on a personal level, like
Mm-hmm.
there's so much more than lacrosse players. They really care about things outside of lacrosse. And I think for me, like I was able to learn from them on the field, but also off the field. Got every opportunity I could to snag one of them to get extra reps in. Like they just have like crazy work ethic, and I was really fortunate enough to, play with them.
Yeah. And specifically talking about the goalies, I mean, we got some tremendous goalie talent out there.
Yeah.
Right. Kaylee Waters, Brittany Reed, Taylor
hmm
Moreno. What was there, in just being around that level of goalie talent, was there something that you kind of saw them do that you're like, hey, I'm gonna try that in my game, or no?
Yeah, definitely. I think when I watched like each game, I was able to like learn. And I think that's so important even at the professional level as a professional athlete, like I could still learn from others and accepting that. And I think it's unusual. I don't think a lot of players at the professional level like could recognize that you could learn from others. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, I felt like a sponge. Like every time on the sidelines, I just tried grasping and learning as much as I possibly could.
That's cool. That's cool. So I know you're working now, but are you gonna go back for season two?
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah,
Yeah, let's go.
definitely. Yeah,
Let's go.
yeah, I'm excited. So I'm still training. I am working right now, but I still train on my off time.
Yeah.
And yeah, looking
What
forward to it.
what does your training regimen look like?
I usually do wall ball at least 3, 4 times a week, and then right now I grab my brother and he shoots on me. So
Nice.
yeah, yeah,
So wall ball and get that brother to rip shots. Now
yeah.
is he shooting with the girl stick?
No, no, he
All
uses
right,
a
shooting
guy
with the guy
stick.
stick. All right.
Yeah, yeah, but it helps me a lot better. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's better than nothing. But I always thought that, I mean, obviously the release is a lot different.
different. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I try to shoot on girls with a girl stick, but
hmm
you don't mind.
I don't mind. Yeah.
Okay. There you go. What about, what about like while you were at college? What were there any particular like drills that it sounds like wall ball might have been your go-to every single time, but is there any other like drills that you think really level up your game more than others?
I think for me at the college level, 1v1s helped me a lot. Like 5 spot 1v1s. Getting those drives really helped me because I feel like at the college women's level, you see a lot of people taking alley dodges. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, that 1v1s was like the drill that I wanted like 2 or 3 times in my practice schedule.
Wow. And what is the drill like? They're just driving down the alley and shooting on you, or
Yeah,
something
so
else?
it'd be like 2 spots from behind and then 3 spots up top, and then it's just a defender and an attacker.
Mm-hmm.
They take it to cage.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. Um, Yeah, love it. What do you do? Kind of shifting gears a little bit, talking about the mental game.
hmm
Which we talked a little bit about with your injury, but I'm curious. Goalies need to be mentally tough, and I'm curious if
Yeah.
there's mental toughness lessons that you've learned along the way that have really helped you.
Hmm. That's a good question. I don't know if there's like specifically something I do. I think for me, like I've always I've tried not comparing myself to other players, and I think that helps with my mental game. In regards of style, like I wouldn't compare myself to someone else's and try to copy their style. I think when we do that, it kind of gets mentally like draining because we're trying to imitate someone else's style. I think just work on your own game and see what works for you
Hmm.
is super important.
Yeah. And not comparing yourself to others in the sense of like there's this girl on the other club team, right, and she's
Yeah.
going to such and such school, and why am I not going to such and such school,
Yeah.
and right, I mean, you don't control what the other girls are doing. Like you only control, what's going on in your life and how hard you can work. So as soon as you start comparing yourself, I think you open yourself up to a lot of mental health problems, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really solid advice. What about like after you get scored on?
Mm.
Really tough moment, right? For
Yeah.
lacrosse goalies, all eyes are on you. I mean, you got to pick the ball out of the back of the net. You sometimes feel like, man, I should have had that one. Any particular, like, I don't know, mental exercises or routines that you do?
I just like repeat the word like reset, refocus, kind of go over in your head what just happened, why it happened. I don't like to dwell on it for too long. I think like 10, 15 seconds, think about it, what you could have done better, move on. Like
Yeah.
that's all you need. That's all you need.
I would even say that's a long time.
Yeah.
I
We
would
cut it
say
down
like,
5, 6 seconds.
yeah, there you go. Like, yeah, 5 seconds. There you go.
Yeah.
And then move on. But
Yeah.
it's a great point. And even I know some goalies have like wrote the words reset on their
Oh, really?
on their glove and like kind of put a circle on it like it's a button, and then they like press the reset button and then bam, they're back into it. So
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a good one.
I like that quite a bit.
Yeah, me too.
What about a time that you went through a slump? Has that happened to you?
Hmm.
And then how did you get out of it?
Hmm. I think definitely probably when I went through my third ACL during that COVID year.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely was struggling that summer going into my I forgot my fifth year. I don't know. I think for me going through like PT and stuff, like trying to do the PT stuff on my own because COVID closed down all the offices and kind of I got into this slump of like why am I why am I rehabbing? Like, why am I doing this? Kind of those things start going through your head.
Right.
And like I said before, like I had to just rewatch film and kind of get myself back into it and being like, this is how you play. This is why you love it. That was definitely like the hardest slump I went through. But once
Mm-hmm.
I got out, I was like fully back on the field. Like I was much better.
Yeah. That's why I talk about so much, like having that real strong connection to the why, like being really, really connected to why you're doing it. Because
Yeah.
when you get away from that, like you said, right, and you go through like some sort of problem, it's like, well, what am I even doing? Right. You kind of
Yeah.
lose that motivation. Then like you get reconnected to that why, and then it's
Hmm.
back. It's right back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I love that. Um, speaking of being like a leader of the team, we talked about it a little bit when you joined Pitt.
Hmm.
I feel like goalies need to be leaders of the team, or I don't know. The best teams that I know have goalies who are leaders. But
Yeah.
how do you go about yourself personally being a leader? What tips do you have for those young girls that want to be more of a leader of their team?
I mean, I think for me, like being a leader is kind of different. Like I feel like there's leaders that are very vocal and there's more of like low key, like not silent, but like for me, I saw myself in a leader at Pitt. Like I got to get to know every player on the team. Like I wanted to like know their story and like how I could help. I think for me, once I connected with my teammates on another level, they trusted me more and I was able to, you know, uh, like learn more about them and like how I could help their game, if that makes sense. Like for my
Yeah.
defenders, I was able to like they were able to say like this is what I'm struggling on, and then from my perspective, being like, yeah, you need to work on this a little bit more, and I'll help you. Like I'll go out and work with you. And same for attackers. Like I would take anyone and go shooting for an
Mm.
hour. You know.
Yeah. That's an awesome lesson in leadership, right? Is just how how can I help? Well,
Yeah.
one caring enough to understand what they need help with,
Yeah.
and then two, helping them with that.
Yeah. I think leadership comes in a lot of different forms, and I don't think like
Yeah.
people realize that. I think um finding like a way to be a leader and like accepting that is so important. It could
Right.
look like so many different things.
Yeah, totally. I 100% agree. I mean, I think a lot of people think about leadership and you think about, someone yelling the pregame speech, right? And they're like, oh, that's the leader, but that's maybe that is right.
Yeah.
And that's just one style. Like you can have
Yeah.
many different styles of leadership. Yeah. Great point.
Yeah, definitely.
Great point. So yeah, so even if you're more of a shy, introverted goalie,
Yeah,
there are ways to, be a leader of the team.
of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
With all the experience that you have now, what advice do you think you'd give your younger self, maybe your high school self?
That's a good one. I don't know. I probably just like keep pushing and like everything happens for a reason. That's so important. I really believe that everything happens for a reason. I probably said that like 3 or 4 times on this podcast, but like I truly believe that. So just like accepting the diversity that comes your way and like learning from that. Because at the end of the day, like that's gonna make you a better player. It's gonna make you a better person. It's gonna make you a better teammate. So definitely just yeah.
Yeah. I also believe that as well. In fact, there's this like stoic principle called amor fati, which is like the love of what happened, love of fate, like loving, not only like thinking that everything happens for a reason, but like loving what happens to you. Like I tore my ACL. It's actually good because now I get to go through this hardship. I get to build character. I get to build strength. Right. And sure, like it's so hard because in the moment you're like, dang it. Right. I want to be out there. But yeah, I 100% agree. Things happen for a reason. And look where you are now. You're in the pros, right? That's unbelievable.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Paulina, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your story and kind of sharing your tips. I noticed you're using the String King Mark II Goalie head. Yeah. Yeah. Talk to me about that head or why you use it.
Yeah, I started using String King, the goalie head, probably my sophomore year. I used their soft mesh as well. Just really like that combo. They have the flat on the head of the stick, and for me, I was able to get to those low shots a little quicker, collapse on that ball a little better. So that's why, and it's lightweight. I use their attack shaft as well with that.
Yeah. I have a String King attack shaft on this head over here. I have a Mark II somewhere. It's not here, but yeah, it's an interesting head. It's like slants forward a little bit. So I know some goalies don't like the forward scoop, but other goalies really like it.
Yeah, for me, it took a little bit. It probably took a couple weeks, but I think for me, it's probably one of the best heads that I've used.
Awesome. Well, do they sponsor you?
Yes, they do. So
there you go. There we go. I was gonna say if they don't, I'm gonna send them that clip. We'll make it happen. That's cool. I didn't know that. So you're a String King athlete.
Correct.
Yep. All right. I love it.
Thank you.
And where should I feel like we need another call to action right there? Should they go buy your String King head? Stringking.com.
Yeah. link it up.
Yeah. We'll link it up. We'll link it up. No, in all seriousness, they're really good folks. They've sponsored this event that I've done, the Lacrosse Goalie Summit, and they've given me like so many shafts and so many heads, and like to the lacrosse goalie community that I've been able to give out to as prizes. So they're
that's awesome.
So I just wanted to give them a huge shout out, String King.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much. Like I said, Paulina, if people want to learn a little bit more about you, should we send them to your Instagram?
Yeah, definitely. At Paulina DiFatta.
At Paulina DiFatta. Can I get more Italian in that name? I feel like that's a super Italian name, right?
Super Italian. Yep.
There you go. I feel like I need to give it one of these after I say the name. That's awesome. Funny. If you had to leave the goalies out there with a final piece of advice, what would it be?
Just keep working towards your craft. Be proud of the product that you're putting out on that field, and just keep working at it. It pays off at the end.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Paulina. We'll see you out there next summer.
All right. Thank you.